Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online roll video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're going to be taking a look at the Paladin and its healer form. And again, disclaimer, you can choose to play this way if you so choose. I am not telling you that you have to. I'm just showing you that it is an option if you want to play this way. So let's go ahead and move on and take a look at this character. So this is the Paladin character. It is a Khajiit Templar. I prefer this. I'm not going to lie to a lot of other races for this setup because of the fact of how it works, but any race can play this. So you can play a Breton, you can play a High Elf, you can play a Wood Elf, you can play a Dark Elf, a Nord, whatever you want. It's all totally up to you. I'm just giving you suggestions with this type of setup. That's it. So moving on, you can see we have 28k magic, a 20k health, a 14k stamina. We do have a 1658 magic recovery coming in with a 1509 spell damage on the front and back bar. We do have 26% spell critical with an 18k spell resist with a 16k physical. We are using the Atronach Mundus Stone for higher magic recovery. You can use the Thief Mundus Stone if you want higher critical. And we are using Witch Mother's Potent Brew for the higher max magicka and max health, and then the mag recovery. So with this, you can use blue food if you so choose as well. And I do use spell power pots for the magicka that it gives you back, the major intellect increasing your magic recovery, and major sorcery and major prophecy. Now jumping over here to the gear, we are running the Sentinel set. This is a really good set for really anyone that plays support because of how it works. The 1-piece adds healing done, the 2-piece. When you heal yourself or an ally, you have a 10% chance to summon a Dwemer Spider that heals for 1199 health and restores 524 stamina to you and your allies within 5 meters every 1 second for 8 seconds. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. The next set we're using is primarily here for when we play stamina DPS, or even in our tank role, it kind of helps out. As you can see, it is Kvetch's Gladiator. This one adds 2-piece weapon critical, 3-piece weapon critical, 4-piece weapon damage, and when your target is under 25% health, add 1800 weapon damage to your light and heavy attacks. That kind of helps out, like I said, with tank or damage dealer. Mostly damage dealer side, but even tanks can take advantage of that 1800 weapon damage. Plus the tank can take advantage of the weapon critical and the weapon damage for certain abilities. Now moving on to the second set we're using, we are using Combat Physician. Combat Physician is more of a support set than it is primarily like a healer set. It works for healers, it works for support. As you can see, the 2-piece adds max magicka, 3-piece spell critical, 4-piece spell critical, and then 5-piece. When you critically heal yourself or an ally, you grant your target a damage shield that absorbs 8,195 damage for 6 seconds. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. Alright, now we're going to go over the traits on the gear along with the enchants. Starting with the helm, we are using an invigorating helm with an invigorating chest and invigorating leggings. All of these are equipped with tri-stat enchants to give you that ability to hybridize your character into a tank, a healer, a damage dealer. Now going over the shoulders and the belt, again, max magicka and sturdy. The reason for sturdy is for when you're tanking. So now onto the boots and gloves, we are using max stamina, sturdy as well. This way you have that higher block cost reduction, and even being a healer, having a good block cost can really save you some resources in the long run. Moving on to the jewelry, we are using 2 tri-rune rings with weapon damage on one, spell damage on the other, and then the necklace is infused with a magic recovery. Moving on to the weapons, we are using a lightning staff infused with a hardening enchant. This is going to give us a small damage shield. This is going to help us be able to stay like up close and personal with the enemies and stuff. It doesn't block a lot of damage, but it does enough to kind of allow you to just take a few hits extra without worrying about it. On the back bar, we are using a powered staff with a weakening enchant. This one is going to help you keep the enemy's damage reduced. It's kind of like applying minor maim. Not like they don't work the same, but they do. One just has more effect than the other. We use a powered staff to increase our healing done because we are using heavy armor, boosting your healing done because you can't boost your spell damage or your crit or anything else like you can in light armor. Alright, so that's the gear, the enchants, traits, food, potions, all that stuff. Now let's go on over to the skills. Taking a look at the class abilities and passives, make sure you unlock all of these depending on what role you're trying to play. Like if you plan on being a tank, unlock the ones that are going to are more classified for tanking. If you're going to play a healer, unlock the ones that are classified for healer, and then the same thing for damage dealer. But unlock the abilities as you can. Also unlock all your class passives because you never know what role you're going to be playing. So moving on to the weapons. Destruction Staff, you want to make sure you get all the passives and the abilities unlocked. Same thing with Restoration Staff. And then moving on to armor. This is a heavy armor build, but you can still take advantage of the light armor passives like the evocations, magic recovery, and the reduced magicka cost on abilities. Because you are a Templar, you already get reduced stamina and magicka cost, so this really helps you in that factor. And then you also get a little bit of extra spell resist, and you get this ability to reduce the effectiveness of snares and increase your sprint speed. Medium armor is just here mainly because when you're playing stamina DPS or you're playing tank, you can take advantage of some of these. And then the athletics is here mainly for any role. It allows you to increase your movement speed while sprinting, and then also reduce your dodge roll cost. Heavy armor, make sure you get all the passives. All of these are going to be helpful to you. And I'm going to point this out because a lot of people keep misunderstanding that when you play heavy armor, as a damage dealer or even as a healer, your main source of resource return is through heavy attacks. You can build for high recovery in heavy armor, but you're still going to need to throw out some heavy attacks every once in a while to get your resources back in. It's just the way the armor is designed. And it is actually one of the more effective ways to get resources back is through heavy attacks with it. Because it does give you 25% more plus the base of 30%. And if you have your CP set up right, you can even get more resources. Moving on to world skills, soul magic. Take the soul magic skills and passives as you choose. I like taking the passive here because when your health drops below 20%, your soul explodes, dealing X amount of damage to enemies within 8 meters of you. This effect can occur once every 2 minutes. It's not got a good cooldown, but it's still, I mean, any little bit helps. Soul Summons allows you to revive once every hour without spending a soul gem, and then Soul Lock, killing an enemy with an weapon ability has a 10% chance of automatically filling an empty soul gem. Moving on to Finder's Guild. Make sure you get all the Finder's Guild abilities and passes that you want to use. Again, all this stuff that I'm telling you guys is just suggestion. Okay, it's just me making suggestions. You don't have to use any of these abilities if you don't want to. Same thing goes with your Mage's Guild. You can unlock the passives and abilities of your choice. I'm just showing you this because these are the choices that I choose to use along with the abilities, because I never know, like, in what situation I might want to use what. Undaunted, same thing. Synergies are super important at any level of the game, as long as you're playing in a group. Having synergies out there to help your group resource manage and stuff through the Undaunted command, and also through just the fact that you can use things like the energy orbs to give resources to your allies and give resources to your allies plus other things is really good. Alright, Alliance War, Salt passives or skills that you want, and passives if you play PvP, I would suggest getting them. They do help out. And then for PvE, take the ones that are going to best affect you in PvE. That's all I've done here. Racials, make sure you get the racial passives. Khajiits get this really cool thing called Robustness, which increases their health recovery and magic and stamina recovery. It's very small, but when you add Invigorating to it, it becomes larger, and it really adds to their capability for resource management. Lunar Blessing increases max health, stamina, and magicka by 825. This makes Khajiits really good hybrid-type characters. They can play just as good, I would say not quite as effective as a Dark Elf, but just as good as a Dark Elf, because they get one benefit the Dark Elf doesn't, actually 2 benefits Dark Elves don't get. They get the recovery, and they get the next thing, which is increased critical damage and healing done by 10%. Dark Elves don't get that. Dark Elves get higher stamina resources and magic resources than the Khajiit, but they don't get any added health, and they also get weapon and spell damage. That's a benefit, a major benefit over the Khajiit. The higher stamina pool, the higher magicka pool, and the higher weapon and spell damage. That's it. Weapon and spell damage is better. But Khajiits do get this higher critical damage, which, if you build for really high crit, can be really effective for you. But in this case, because the way we're set up, it's so we can take advantage of that. The fact that Khajiit fits this so well. Alright. Moving on to crafting. Alchemy, medicinal use, always good. When using a potion, resulting effects last 30% longer. And the same thing with provisioning, gourmand, and connoisseur. These just help improve the length and time your foods and potions last. Alright, now we're going to go over the skills on the bar, starting with the first ability. We have Luminous Shards. And remember, everything on this bar is subject to change if you so choose. Luminous Shards. This does an AoE of damage when it hits. It also does damage over time in an area of effect, and then people can use the synergy of it to restore magicka or stamina, whichever is higher, and they also restore additional magicka or stamina, whichever is lower. So they get a big pool in one and a little pool in the other. This is really good for tanks and some DPS, depending on how they play. So, really beneficial. Next up, we have Blockade of Storms. We have this here because it can cause enemies to go off balance. We aren't using a shock enchant. That would be something that you can do on the staff if you want to have a greater chance of applying off balance. Is use a shock enchant with an infused staff. It'll give you a greater chance of applying that effect. Or you can use a charge staff and get an even better, higher chance of causing the off balance. Next, we have Purifying Light. This is basically a damage stacking ability. When you put this on the enemy, 20% of the damage they take is consumed into this like stacking damage thing. It also deals damage when it hits, and then the copied damage that it can deal is 17,170. But when the effect ends, a pool of sunlight remains attached to the enemy, healing nearby allies for 2,162 health every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. And we also get a really cool passive benefit for using it. We get two. We get Prism, which casting a Dawn's Wraith ability generates 3 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. And we get Illuminate. Casting a Dawn's Wraith ability grants minor sorcery to you and your group for 20 seconds, increasing your spell damage by 10%. Next ability we have is called Extended Ritual. This one, Exalt the Sacred Light of Aedra, cleansing up to 5 harmful effects from yourself immediately, and healing you and nearby allies for 911 health every 2 seconds for 24 seconds. Allies in the area can activate the Purify Synergy, cleansing all harmful effects from themselves and healing for 4,493 health. This ability scales off your highest offensive stat. So you can use this with max health or max stamina, max stamina or max magicka, your choice, and it can affect how well this works. Alright, moving on. We have Elemental Susceptibility. A lot of people are going to say Elemental Drain is better. In this case, we'll see. This one, you send in elements to sap the enemy's defenses and afflict them with Major Breach for 24 seconds, reducing their spell resistance by 5,280. Any damage you deal to the enemy refreshes the effect to its maximum duration. Next, we have Reviving Barrier. This invoke a defensive tactic to protect yourself and your nearby allies with wards that each absorb up to 24,191 damage. The wards also heal you and your allies for 20,265 health over 30 seconds. Moving on to the back bar, we have Breath of Life. This is here for our main primary heal. Pretty much we're going to be using this quite a bit. Beckon your inner light, healing yourself or a wounded ally in front of you for 8,589 health. Also heals one other injured target for 2,860 health. Next ability we have on our bar is Illustrious Healing. A lot of people like to use Healing Springs. In this case, I use Illustrious Healing because my healing effect isn't as good so as somebody in light armor. So this is going to give you better healing capabilities with this ability. You're just not going to get Magicka back when you use it. So Restoring Spirits, summon Restoring Spirits with your staff healing you and your allies in the target area for 1855 health and additional 1855 health every 1 second for 4 seconds. And then we have Combat Prayer. This one is basically a burst heal in a cone, not a cone, but an area of effect in front of you, 8 meters by 20 meters. It's got a long range, and it heals for 4,625 health to anyone that hits. Also grants Minor Berserk, Minor Resolve, and Minor Ward, increasing your physical, or increasing yours and your allies' damage by 8% and your physical and spell resistance by 1320 for 8 seconds. Our next ability we have is called Radiant Aura. Champion the cause of divine glory to apply minor Magicka steel to all enemies around you for 24 seconds, causing you and your allies to restore 300 Magicka every 1 second when damaging them. While slotted, you gain minor fortitude, minor endurance, and minor intellect, increasing your health, stamina, and magic recovery by 10%. And we have Channeled Focus here. This one, create a rune of celestial protection. While active, the rune grants you major resolve and major ward, increasing your spell and physical resist by 5,280. You also receive 240 Magicka every 1 second. Standing in the ruin increases physical resistance and spell resistance granted by 50%. And then moving on over here, we have Aggressive Warhorn. So sound a warhorn to rally your forces, increasing you and your allies' max Magicka and stamina by 10% for 30 seconds. You and your allies also gain Major Force, increasing your critical damage by 15% for 19 seconds. Now this only affects critical damage, not critical healing. Alright, now let's go ahead and take a look at our CP setup, starting with the red tree. I have reset them since then. No, I did not. Holy cow, guys. My bad. So I'm just going to reset these ones real quick, because these are the only ones I really need to reset. And, oops, I forgot one more. See, everyone makes mistakes all the time. It's a common occurrence. Alright, starting with the red tree. We have 66 into Ironclad. This is going to increase your, or reduce your damage taken from direct damage attacks by 22%. We have 56 into Thick Skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 20%. 56 into Hardy, reducing your damage taken from physical poison disease damage by 12%. And then 56 into Elemental Defender, reducing your damage taken from Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 12%. Moving on over here, we have 32 into Quick Recovery, increasing your healing received by 8%, and 4 into Heavy Armor Focus. We're using more of a damage dealer type mitigation here, but that's okay. We have 40 into Warlord. This reduces the cost to break free by 16%. 16 into Sprinter, reducing your stamina cost to sprint by 10%. And then 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing your stamina cost to bash by 10%. Moving on over here, we have 43 into Arcanus, increasing your magic recovery by 10%. 75 into Tenacity. Since we're using two staves, a lightning staff and a restless staff, this will only give us Magicka back, but it increases your Magicka, your fully charged heavy attacks restore, by 14%. With the heavy armor passive 25%, that is right there, 39% increase. When you add another 30% to that, that is a 69% increase in resource return from heavy attacks. This is going to make that more effective for you in the long run when you do heavy attacks. Moving on, 40 into Tumbling reduces the cost of roll dodge by 16%, and then 40 into Shadow Ward, reducing your block cost by 16%. Moving on over here, we have 43 into Blessed, increasing your healing done by 10%. 56 into Elfborn, increasing your critical damage and critical healing by 20%, and then 56 into Elemental Expert, increasing your Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 12%. Moving on over here, we have 35 into Staff Expert. This increases your light and heavy attack for destruction, restoration staffs, and overload by 20%. And then Master at Arms 40 increases your damage down with direct damage attacks by 16%. And then moving on over here, we have 40 in the Thaumaturge, increasing your damage down with damage over time effects by 16%. And that is the setup. So that is the healer setup for the Paladin. I am going to show you guys what it looks like in a dungeon, so you guys can see the effectiveness of its healing and its resource management. So let's go ahead and take a walk into Depths of Malatar. This is on veteran mode. Depths of Malatar is one of the latest dungeons out with the Wrathstone DLC, and is one of the more difficult, challenging dungeons that have been added to the game. I wouldn't say it's super challenging, but it's definitely more challenging than the base game dungeons. So, all DLC dungeons are more difficult than the base game dungeons. And like I said, this is just to show you its effectiveness, not to show you like, oh, hey, I'm going to play through the whole dungeon by myself, because that would just take forever on a healer. And there's a high chance I probably wouldn't survive, because I don't have a group to help me kill everything super fast. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drink our potion. We're going to buff. Now I'm just going to show you the different ultimates and how they can affect you. But you guys can see, I mean, this thing's pretty self-sufficient with healing, everything else. I'm just going to get some ultimate gen so I can use the Warhorn so you guys can see that and its effectiveness. Oops. Really? Alright, there we go. Warhorn's out. We have 15,000 stamina with 30,000 magicka. And there we go. And that is the Paladin in its healer form. So if you guys want to play it this way, you guys know how now, and you know how to set it up for it. That's pretty much all these videos are here to do, is just to show you how you can set things up to play the way you want. And then you guys can choose to play it that way if you so choose. Primarily, this is a tank. So, and that's it. And you guys know what that means. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.